know he is the best friend of my son, but he has something special that makes me feel so good. My name is Natalie. I'm 46 years old and live in the charming town of Woodstock, Vermont. I make a living by baking sweet and savory treats for parties. My ex-husband left me for his much younger mistress, a woman of only 25 years old. I discovered his infidelity after 15 years of marriage, and he was my first and only husband. The news of his betrayal shattered me, and since then, I have tried to rebuild my life. Although nearly 7 years have passed, I haven't had any serious relationships. Currently, I live with my son Carlos, who is 22 years old and my greatest treasure. Carlos has been my companion, my strength, and the reason I keep moving forward. He gives me the support and love I need to overcome difficult days. Watching his growth and achievements fills me with pride and joy. It is for him that I continue despite everything that happened in the past. I have always been a liberal mother, never forbidding my son from doing anything. I trust his ability to understand the difference between right and wrong. I have always allowed him to bring friends and girlfriends home, and never had a problem letting him have parties. I believe that this freedom has helped strengthen our relationship. My son always knew he could count on me, and this mutual trust created an environment of respect and understanding between us. Carlos's friends have always joked about marrying me or taking me out, insinuating that I am the woman of their dreams. They used to say I was too beautiful for my age, and although it might seem vain to admit it, I can't deny that I attract attention wherever I go. Compliments about my appearance have been a constant in my life, and even though the years have passed, I still manage to capture the attention of many with my presence. Before we dive fully into this breathtaking tale of infidelity, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Sometimes the attention I received from Carlos's friends created funny and unexpected situations. When they were younger and more uninhibited, their jokes were direct, and their comments were bold. There was a certain charm in how they tried to flirt with me so innocently, and I, of course, always responded with a soft smile, not taking them too seriously. But deep down, I knew I still had a special allure, a spark that hadn't faded with time. However, things have changed now. Carlos's friends are older, grown men who have matured and become more aware of their desires. Carlos is in college, and this new phase has brought a different dynamic to our lives. The looks I receive now are much more intense, filled with intention and desire. I know very well what those looks mean. They are no longer just jokes. Now I see a mix of admiration and lust in their eyes, attention that hangs in the air when we are in the same room. I am single, but I am not naive or unprepared. I can feel when a look goes beyond a simple compliment, when attention turns into latent desire, an attraction that barely hides beneath the surface. There is one friend in particular who has always caught my attention, Alvaro. He is 24 years old and has been Carlos's childhood friend. Alvaro practically grew up in our house. I always took care of him as if he were my own son, and he in turn was always very attentive and playful. For many years, Alvaro used to give me playful pats on the butt, and I always took it with humor, thinking it was just part of our friendly relationship. But as he grew older, those jokes diminished and eventually stopped. Still, the way he was always present, and the attention he gave me never went unnoticed. Everything started to get out of control last month, at the beginning of July, on a day that initially seemed like any other. Carlos's mother, a dear friend with whom I share years of confidences, was celebrating her 50th birthday. Being so close to her family, I offered to make the sweet and savory treats for the party, a special gift that I knew she would appreciate. I didn't ask for anything in return, just for her to buy the necessary ingredients. The day the supplies arrived at my door, it was Alvaro who appeared to deliver them. He didn't just leave them and go. With a smile and a look that seemed to hide something more, he insisted on staying to help me with the preparation. He said that since I was doing all the work selflessly, he wanted to contribute in some way, making sure I wasn't alone in the process. His offer, so sincere and full of good intentions, seemed charming to me. I accepted, feeling that his company would be a good way to make the work faster and perhaps more enjoyable. As we progressed in the preparation of the sweet and savory treats, the atmosphere in the kitchen began to transform. The closeness between us, which had always been natural and unpretentious, due to the years Alvaro had spent in our house with my son, started to feel different, charged with an energy I couldn't ignore. The jokes and laughter we shared gave way to a deeper, more intimate conversation. I'm not sure exactly how the topic came up, but suddenly we found ourselves talking about relationships and personal preferences, something we had never discussed so openly before. Alvaro, with a sincerity that disarmed me, confessed that he had never felt attracted to women his own age. He had always had a weakness for older women, those who, according to him, possessed a special charm, a mix of experience and confidence that made them irresistible. He commented that older women were less complicated, more willing to explore and enjoy new experiences without the barriers that younger women sometimes put up. As I listened to him, I felt a warmth spread through me, a mix of surprise and something more that I couldn't quite identify. His voice was soft, but filled with a conviction that made it hard not to feel alluded to. His words resonated in the small space of the kitchen, and each phrase seemed to bring us a little closer, as if an invisible but palpable tension was beginning to wrap around us. When I heard this, I felt my face heat up and turn red with embarrassment. I couldn't help but let out a nervous laugh. Alvaro's statement resonated in a way I didn't expect, and I ended up agreeing with him. I commented that, in fact, more experienced women have more experience and are more open to new experiences. The conversation deepened and became even more personal, creating an atmosphere of intimacy that I didn't expect, but that became increasingly fluid. During the conversation, I decided to ask Alvaro what his ideal older woman would be like. With a smile on his face, he began to describe his preferences: long hair, brunette, green eyes, and a slightly chubby body. He said he liked women with curves. With each detail, I couldn't contain my laughter. The description was so precise that it seemed like he was talking directly about me. When Alvaro noticed my reaction and questioned the reason for my laughter, I explained that his description matched my appearance perfectly. He laughed and confirmed that someone like me would indeed be the perfect woman for him. Then Alvaro made the conversation even bolder, stating that guys his age, between 24 and 25, are at the peak of their virility. For young men like him, having multiple intimate encounters in one night is common. He compared his ability to a real machine in bed, capable of repeating the act 1, 2, even 3 times in a row. The conversation was becoming increasingly intimate and charged with tension, and I could feel the change in the atmosphere between us. The way he spoke and the enthusiasm with which he described his preferences made the moment even more provocative. Before continuing with this breathtaking tale of infidelity, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Alvaro then became serious and asked me an unexpected question. What would my ideal man be like? That question caught me off guard. I hadn't reflected on that in a long time. My routine, filled with commitments to preparing sweet and savory treats, took up all my time and energy, and I had left my own desires and longings aside. I told him that, in reality, I didn't think much about that lately. With the demanding routine I have with the sweet and savory treats, the time to think about relationships ended up taking a back seat. But as Alvaro insisted, I ended up opening up a little more. I told him that if I were to consider a new relationship, I would prefer someone who wasn't looking for something serious. I'm not interested in having a boyfriend or getting married, especially because with men my age, the issue of serious commitment always comes up, and frankly, I'm not naive. Many end up cheating on their partners. So what I would be looking for then would be someone who shared the same vision as me, who understood that I'm not in the market for a conventional romance. Alvaro laughed and made a joke saying that he would be the ideal candidate for what I was looking for. I remained silent, embarrassed, and just watched him. Then suddenly, he stopped mixing the sweet treats and began to declare himself. He told me that he had always felt an attraction to me, but never had the courage to say anything before, precisely because he was my son's best friend. I was left without a reaction, but I felt something pulsing inside me. The sensation was strange and intense. It had been a long time since I knew what it felt like to feel desired. I started to tremble a little. Alvaro continued praising my appearance and saying that I was wasting my beauty by being alone. He revealed that he had always had hot dreams about me, and that, despite being a little younger, he felt an intense connection. His words were like a shock to me. I really didn't know how to react to that. Alvaro, perceiving my surprise and the tension in the air, tried to ease the situation. He told me that he understood if I got mad at him for the declaration, that he only wanted to be honest about his feelings, and asked me not to take it badly. He explained that he had no control over his emotions or the dreams he had had. His sincerity was evident, and despite the initial shock, something inside me began to let go. He approached and, with a worried look, continued saying that he didn't want this to affect our friendship or his relationship with my son. He just needed me to know what he felt. I told Alvaro that I wouldn't get mad at him for the declaration, and thanked him for the compliments and for finding me attractive. I explained that in other circumstances, things might be different, but he was my son's best friend. Alvaro seemed visibly sad with my response, but he didn't give up. He then asked at least for a kiss, saying it would be just one, as a gesture of friendship. For a moment, I hesitated, but then I thought, it's just a kiss. The poor guy had the courage to declare himself. He deserves at least a thank you. I told Alvaro that I would give him a kiss, but it would be just that, a simple kiss without complications. He agreed and seemed very happy with the idea. However, when he approached, he put his hand on my waist and pulled me towards his body. I realized that the situation was getting out of control. What I expected to be a quick and uncomplicated kiss turned into something completely different. Feeling the pull, I was surprised by a passionate kiss with tongue, something I had never experienced before. It was much more intense and enveloping than I imagined. Suddenly, I let myself be carried away by the moment, and the kiss lasted for a while. The sensation was new and electric, and I found myself wrapped in something that until then seemed unthinkable. After a while of kissing, Alvaro stopped and asked me if I wanted to stop. I didn't answer, I just kissed him again. That was a clear signal for him that I was willing to continue. Without words, the kiss deepened, and the atmosphere around us changed completely. What started as a quick and simple kiss turned into something much more intense. Alvaro pulled me closer, and before I knew it, we ended up on the kitchen floor. The sensation was of something inevitable, and we gave ourselves completely to the moment. We were doing everything, wrapped in a passion and desire that seemed to have accumulated over time. After we finished and got dressed, I was surprised to see that things continued normally. Or rather, I couldn't imagine that I would be able to handle this so well. I thought the atmosphere would become heavy, or that we would distance ourselves. But on the contrary, both of us seemed to have enjoyed what happened. We finished preparing the sweet and savory treats, and Alvaro, before leaving, gave me a kiss and said that he had loved everything and would have no problem repeating the experience. With a smile, I asked him to leave soon before my son came home. I took the opportunity to admit that I had also liked it, and that maybe in the future, we could repeat the experience. When Alvaro got home, he started sending me several messages, repeating how much he had liked what happened between us. To keep the charm and suspense, I took my time to respond. When I finally talked to him, I confirmed that I had also loved the experience. I also asked him to be careful with my son and keep things a secret, avoiding any behavior that could raise suspicions, such as exaggerated looks or jokes. The last thing I needed was more complications, especially with Carlos. I wanted everything to seem normal, and for the situation to remain an absolute secret. My son Carlos suspects nothing, and that is a relief. However, I have a constant fear that he will discover what happened. If he knew that I had been with one of his friends, I know he would never forgive me. I try to keep everything a secret, because the idea of a possible reaction from him is terrifying to me. Since that day, Alvaro has insisted on repeating the experience, but I always find excuses to avoid it. Sometimes I wonder if I should let myself go again, or if it is better to leave everything in the past and return to my solitary life. Despite my initial reservations, Alvaro's persistence began to wear me down. He would find ways to be alone with me, even if it was just for a few moments. His presence was intoxicating, and I found myself looking forward to our stolen moments more than I cared to admit. One evening, while Carlos was out with friends, Alvaro came over under the pretense of helping me with some household chores. As we worked side by side, the tension between us grew palpable. Every accidental brush of his hand against mine sent shivers down my spine. I knew I was playing with fire, but I couldn't resist the allure. As the days turned into weeks, our secret meetings became more frequent. Alvaro would sneak into my room late at night, after Carlos had gone to bed. We would spend hours exploring each other's bodies, our passion growing with each encounter. I felt alive in a way I hadn't in years, and Alvaro's youthful energy was infectious. He made me feel desired and beautiful, something I had long forgotten. Our connection deepened, and I found myself falling for him in a way that was both exhilarating and terrifying. One night, as we lay entwined in each other's arms, Alvaro looked at me with a mixture of adoration and concern. "Natalie, what are we doing? Where is this going?" he asked, his voice soft and uncertain. I took a deep breath, knowing I owed him an honest answer. "I don't know, Alvaro. All I know is that I can't stop thinking about you, and I can't imagine not having you in my life." He nodded, understanding the complexity of our situation. "I feel the same way, but we have to be realistic. You're my best friend's mom, and I'm just the guy who's fallen for you." Our conversations began to shift, becoming more serious and introspective. We talked about the future, about the implications of our relationship, and about the potential fallout if Carlos ever found out. Alvaro confessed that he had never felt this way about anyone before, that I was the one who made him feel complete. His words were like a balm to my soul, soothing the wounds left by my ex-husband's betrayal. I found myself opening up to him in ways I never had with anyone else, sharing my deepest fears and desires. As our bond grew stronger, so did the risk of being discovered. We became more careful, more discreet, but the fear of being caught was always lurking in the back of my mind. One evening, as Alvaro was sneaking out of my room, we heard Carlos's footsteps approaching. My heart raced as I quickly closed the door behind Alvaro, praying that Carlos hadn't seen him. I took a deep breath and composed myself before opening the door to greet my son. "Hey, Mom, I thought I heard something. Is everything okay?" he asked, his eyes scanning the room. "Yes, everything's fine. I was just about to go to bed," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. The next day, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. I watched Carlos closely, looking for any sign that he suspected something. He seemed normal, but I couldn't be sure. Alvaro and I decided to take a break from our secret meetings, at least until we were certain that Carlos didn't know anything. The days turned into weeks, and the longing for Alvaro grew stronger with each passing day. I missed him desperately, but I knew we had to be careful. One evening, as I was sitting alone in my room, I heard a soft knock on the door. My heart raced as I opened it to find Alvaro standing there, his eyes filled with longing. "I couldn't stay away any longer," he whispered, pulling me into a passionate embrace. As we kissed, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. But as we pulled away, I noticed something in Alvaro's expression that sent a chill down my spine. "Natalie, there's something I need to tell you," he said, his voice grave. My heart pounded in my chest as I braced myself for what he was about to say. "Carlos knows. He saw us that night, and he's been waiting for the right moment to confront us." My world spun as the reality of our situation hit me like a ton of bricks. What would happen next? How would Carlos react? The uncertainty was overwhelming, and I knew that our lives were about to change in ways we never imagined.